Meet the Lot, native token of Lukki Exchange and the most potential tool for investing this year. Trade now on P2B, B2B and Lukki.io.
You have been such an inspiring figure and such a bright light for the entire community. So first and foremost, thank you for your leadership. Actually, let's give her a round of applause for just being who you are and being the leader that you are.
Well, thank you, Perianne. It's really a delight to be here. And Paul Atkins was a nice one to introduce me, but anything good that I know or do, I've learned from him, so he gets all the credit for that.
And we're very blessed to have Paul on our team as well, and he's been so helpful in the many issues that our community is facing. I have a lot of questions, like a whole laundry list of questions that I've asked some of our members to submit them. A lot of great stuff that's coming in. So I apologize in advance for the rapid fire, but I know that you're very much dedicated to this
I should,
space.
before we begin, give my
course.
disclaimer, which what I say represents my own views and not necessarily the views of the commissioner or my fellow commissioners.
Got it.
All right.
We understand.
Now we're good
yes,
to go.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so first and foremost, a lot of the companies in this space, they are relying on dated guidance on how to operate in this space. So custody rules, the Howey test as an example. We mentioned earlier this morning that there's been about 30 enforcement actions related to digital assets, but we haven't really seen formal or binding guidance related to digital assets out of the SEC as of yet. Why not? I mean, what is the pace of this, or what do you think is driving kind of the SEC's pace today?
Regulators are slow, so I think you shouldn't expect any kind of quick activity, certainly not in terms of everything's relative, right? So for our world, we might be moving very quickly, but for your world, it's going to look slow. But I do think that there's a learning curve, so people at the SEC are trying to learn about this space and trying to understand where the pressure points are, where the pain points are. So you all need to come in and tell us where the pain points are, where the old regime doesn't fit. And then I think we can try to move forward with guidance. I, of course, would like to see the commission come out with guidance at the commission level to make it easier for people to understand where the lines are and how the new technology that we're seeing interacts with those lines. But we need from you examples of where that would be helpful.
Well, so speaking of guidance, you've mentioned in the past that the SEC is working on guidance related to tokens. Is there any insights into this that you can share with us today?
Well, staff is working on guidance, but I should note that that's staff guidance. So that's staff of different divisions are working on guidance, corporation finance, trading and markets. But it's not going to be commission level guidance. And so again, it suffers from the same problem, which is that they're statements and they're valuable, but it's not at the level of the commission, and we're the ones that make the decisions. So ultimately, we really want to have it come out of the commission.
And that would be, I guess, your goals would
that would be my goal, right?
Yeah. For companies, so I guess when we do start to see this guidance come forward, for companies that have issued tokens that may be considered securities, will there be a path to compliance for these projects?
I mean, there is a path, but I think the path that you've seen, most recently, we had an enforcement action where someone came in and self-reported and said, look, we think we actually crossed the line here. Can we come into compliance? And you can come into compliance, but there's still a price for that. So it does, it does require you coming in and potentially doing some sort of a rescission offer for the people who invested. So it's something that you have to take very seriously if you're embarking on a project. You've got to take seriously which side of the line you're on.
Right. Well, what about no action letters? So both you and Director Henman have addressed potentially at the staff level, no action letters may be issued for some projects in this space. I don't believe we've seen any to date. Is there, I guess through conversations that we've had, I mean, we are aware that some have been requested. Would that be because these projects just didn't warrant them, or is there something you guys need to see in addition that you're not seeing? What around the no action letter process has us where we are today?
Well, I think it would be, so when you file one of these things with the staff, it's helpful for you to go in and talk to the staff at the same time you're filing. So you shouldn't reach out to the staff. We've got the Fin Hub. That's where you should reach out to the staff. And then it would be helpful if you reached out to my office just to let me know that you got a letter in, and then I can sort of monitor progress from inside. And usually on these types of things, there's a back and forth. So I like the idea of a no action process because it's someone who has a project and you think that you can do this as, say, not a securities offering. So you want to have comfort on that point. You come in and the staff will tell you, look, based on the circumstances and the facts that you laid out, we wouldn't recommend an enforcement action. And that's really a powerful thing to have in your back pocket. It's not the end all and be all, but it's a powerful thing. So I think if we were, and then it's public, so that's helpful too for other people to kind of get a sense of how to structure their projects. But again, please don't just send in the letter. Tell us about it, tell me about it, and then I think that's a way to move things forward more quickly.
Okay.
But again, these processes take a long time. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, everything at the SEC is slow.
We're operating in crypto time here,
Yeah.
so. Shifting the conversation a little bit into security tokens, at the Chamber of Digital Commerce, we established an initiative called the Token Alliance, and Paul Atkins is one of our co-chairs, along with Jim Newsom, who's the former chairman of the CFTC. Last year, we issued some guidelines for utility tokens, and now that group is working on guidelines for security tokens. And what we're learning through the process is there's a lot of friction points for companies that are going down this path, everything from custody, transfer agents. Any thoughts or insights into issues for security tokens on these topics in terms of a path forward?
I mean, I think it really, the path forward is predicated on you all engaging with us, with our staff, people to submit comments, and I would really encourage you. Last year, one of our divisions, the Division of Investment Management, put out a letter in which they asked a number of questions, and it's now, I asked if we could please put it up on the website, put up on the website a link where people could actually comment on it, because I think it's a conversation we need to have. And we've gotten, I think I looked today, and I think we'd gotten maybe 5 or 6 letters. And I was pretty disappointed by that, because I think these are conversations. It does take work on your part, I realize that, but we really need people to be writing in and responding. And so on these issues like custody, they're really technical, difficult issues. And it comes up in a number of different formats. And so I think you all need to be working with us. I hope you'll come talk to me, come talk to the staff, come talk to me, educate me on these issues too, so that I can, again, be more educated when I'm interacting with our staff. And if there are problems that you see and you say, hey, this is a rule that just simply will not work in this space, but we have this other compensating protection that we think is sufficient, let us know that too, and that gives us ideas of how we can potentially modernize our rules. Especially on transfer agents, that's an area where our rules are just old, and so they're old across the board, and not only as they interact with crypto. I want to move forward with getting out some new rules, so this is the perfect time for you to come in with ideas on transfer agents. Come give us your ideas so that we can work those concepts into whatever proposal we put out.
Well, we have seen a number of projects that have filed for a Reg A plus token offering, and they have not been qualified to date. What do you think the SEC needs to see in order to qualify these projects?
I mean, each project is going to be assessed. Each Reg A offering is assessed on its unique facts and circumstances and the filings that people make. But I do think that anything that has crypto involved at all is going to get more scrutiny. And so the best advice I can give is just be super responsive. If they ask for stuff, you've got to give it to them. I do have concerns about the length of time some of these have taken. And so again, if you can come tell me that you've filed, tell me what your experience is, how long you've been waiting, that lets me know what's going on in the Division of Corporation Finance, and then I can ask, what's the hang up, so I can be trying to understand too, because I think it would be really valuable if we were able to get one of these Reg A offerings over the line to show people this is really a viable way to go. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that. So feel free again to come talk to me on those.
A couple weeks ago, the Chamber, we issued our National Action Plan for Blockchain. And this is a campaign that we've put forward. And in our work at the Chamber over the past 5 years, we spent a lot of time with the SEC, the CFTC, Treasury. The acronyms just keep going on and on and on. A lot of great work products going underway with different agencies and independent regulators, different stakeholders within the government that want to use this technology. And for us, when we really laid out the landscape in the United States, it's very complicated and there's some really interesting things going on. But overall, we felt that it was time to just take a step back and say, well, what is the plan? And for us, we felt it was important to go on record and to make a call to the government, the highest levels of government, to demonstrate higher level leadership, to one, promote this technology and acknowledge it as an important technology for the future of the United States. Do you see value or what types of action would you like to see the government take and thoughts on having a national strategy for blockchain?
So I appreciated that you came out with this action plan. I think that's helpful. But I will caution, innovation comes from the private sector. I mean, that's where it should come from. That's where it naturally does come from, because people have great ideas. They see problems. They want to solve those problems. They come up with technology or other solutions to those problems. And so when you try to get national action plans, to me that means that you're trying to, not you specifically, but people think, oh, wouldn't it be great if we coordinated this from the government and that has gotten us into lots of problems in the past. So I love grassroots. That's one of the things that draws me to this technology. Is very decentralized. I think that's a beautiful thing. So don't lose sight of the fact that that's really a beautiful aspect of this technology, and don't try to over-involve the government either, right? We need to have clear regulatory guidelines. That's something that I think you've been very forthright in calling for, which I think is really important. We do need to let people know where they stand, but then within that, let people do what they want to do, and don't try to have too much government partnership with the private sector. That's for you all to do, and we just have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we certainly take this approach from a free market perspective. And the people who know this technology best are those that are building on it. And it's important that those viewpoints are taken into account when forming public policy. So what coordination efforts are currently underway within your colleagues? I know there is some coordination that is happening, and we think that and some of the feedback that we get from our members is, different regulatory agencies are looking at this through very different lenses, and so it's costing a lot of legal dollars to just kind of figure out where you fit and where you're supposed to go. So thoughts on coordination and what is happening from a coordination perspective already?
Well, I think there's interagency work on coordinating and trying to figure out where the regulatory frameworks interact with one another and where things should fit. I think Congress can be helpful in sort of encouraging more cooperation, and I think we see interest from Congress in that regard. But we do realize that we need to work with our fellow regulators. So there's work through the FSOC, for example, which brings together all the financial regulators, and I think there's interest too. The states are obviously pretty involved in this area as well, so there's coordination work with the states also. But it's always difficult because everyone's trying to get their hands around the technology and then trying to figure out, where does it stand with our rules, let alone within other agencies. So there's still a lot more progress to be made on coordination.
Right, and also we've seen a number of projects, and through the work of our Token Alliance, we have some data that's also shown us that some of these businesses who want to operate in the blockchain ecosystem are choosing not to operate in the United States. I've even had a couple of meetings today with companies that are here, and they're saying they've been forced. Do you have any concerns about the United States providing an environment that's inviting for companies to operate here, and then how that could change our position as a nation on the world stage?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, whenever I hear people are deciding not to do entrepreneurial things in the U.S., that worries me, because I do want our country to be the place where people want to come for that, because we have the best regulatory framework within which to operate. So it's certainly a concern. But again, let me know where the pressure points are. One may just be the number of regulators we have here, which it poses problems not only in this space, but in lots of other areas. People have to deal with lots of regulators here in the states and at the federal level. But I think that we just need to keep working toward getting those regulatory guidelines clearer here, and then I hope that we'll be able to attract people back to this country.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for your leadership, and appreciate you joining us at the summit.